It looks like it happened. Wasn't sure if it was actually going to happen, but it has. And Joe Biden is out. Now the question is, with any kind of real logic, who are you going to choose to go into be the presidency? If you look for dollars to donuts to what in 8 years Obama was doing to what has happened under the Biden administration, there's a lot of things that are positive things, but they could be built on in a larger way. And it's really unfortunate that one of the most substantive things that could have happened under the Biden administration was the soft infrastructure bill that 2 Democrats helped to kill, and Kirsten Sinema and the pig clown greedy fuck Joe Manchin. So between those 2 clowns, the real substantial changes that could have helped take place, and then the progressives lost their whole backbone and turned into the yellow, backbiting little babies that they are. And that's why Jamal Bowman helped to lose his own election when he should have won that election, but he should have had the full backing of the DNC, which he did not have. All right, because the progressives, at the end of the day, for everything that you said, coming under Bernie Sanders, when you had an opportunity to block that $1.6 trillion infrastructure for the corporate side, you didn't do it. And you were supposed to couple the 2 bills together so one couldn't pass without the other. And then you folded on that as well. You know, the water in Flint, Michigan is still as dirty as it ever was. We're facing a World War III scenario. You're letting AIPAC crawl up the ass of every politician that we have in the United States, and whether they're on the Republican or the Democratic side, you can flood money in, and this is how a beautiful individual lost her election to Shontel Brown in Ohio. That was the manager of Bernie Sanders' election. This wonderful lady here was a former Ohio senator. And what happened when AIPAC money came in and destroyed this woman's ability to help work for the people? The reality of the situation is that we have a serious problem facing us if we don't get money out of politics. In lobbying. Lobbying has to go all together. If I had never heard AIPAC again, along with all these other lobbyists, I would be very, very happy. You know, we gotta do something better than what we're doing. This gentleman right here, that's Mr. Jamie Harrison. He's the current head of the DNC, and this guy's got to have a come to Jesus moment, along with all the big money and all the big donors. And there's going to be a point in time where you'll be able to take the last 20 years, just the last 20 years, and take all the dollars that have ever been spent for political campaigns, whether they're on a local level, whether they're on a statewide level, or whether on a national level. And you take all that money that you're never going to get back, and it's money that does not help the regular average citizen, and you gave it to the regular average citizen, whether it's in the form of tax credits, whether it's in the form of direct payments, whether it's in the form of setting up new and good businesses for people to be involved in the building of our infrastructure, green jobs. There's a green job that no one talks about, and that green job is using hemp as a source for building materials, for paper products, for a host of different things. And the technology has been around for a very long time. And a lot of these places that are devastated by loss of work that are very green, you know, all through the Ohio Valley, in the state of Michigan, Wisconsin, going all the way to Pennsylvania, upstate New York. These were places that were textiles and small businesses. One of the most incredible stories you can find is a story of Origin Clothing in Maine, and what they had to do to get a loom that was made in the United States in the 20s or 30s got sent over to Pakistan because our politicians in the 80s and 90s betrayed Americans and sent all these jobs overseas. So it's a culmination of all these things that have happened here that put us into a space that we find ourselves in now. It's the Democratic Party that put Donald Trump in office. And all you have to do is go back to March of 2020, and you had Bernie Sanders on Joe Rogan's podcast, and afterwards, after talking about policy, after talking about the real things he wants to do for American people, and not these platitudes and these ridiculous lies and bullshit that you hear from a guy like Trump, to a lack of the Biden camp of talking about the things they actually did get done. And one of them was the huge Ford plant that's getting built down in a very poor part of Tennessee. I watched an interview with a guy who had a criminal background, and now he's working 10, 12-hour shifts in this place, and the feeling that he has of actually having hope for being able to take care of his family legitimately is the reason for us to invest into the poor communities of the United States. So these young people don't feel like the only thing they have left to do is carjack people and steal clothes out of Lululemon. I mean, come on. You know, there's a cause and effect relationship to all this. Now, do I think that there's a lot of people that just do it because they're greedy pigs? Yeah, it's hard to distinguish a guy on the street that decides to pick up a gun and go out in the evening and carjack people or steal their Rolex watches or break into their homes, and the guys in Washington, D.C. that take money from corporate oligarchs and steal and plunder us like Tim Scott. They follow the rules and regs, but the people at the very top that's telling that you've got to follow these rules and regs don't follow any rules or regs. And then the guys that are in the street that you've created, they're not following the rules and regs. So it's just the regular folks in the middle that are getting ripped off by both the people in Washington and the pigs and gangbangers and clowns on the street. And where does a regular law-abiding citizen go that wants to do the right thing? Well, it starts and begins with you in the DNC, and it begins with the leadership to have your come to Jesus moment about all the thievery and bullshit you've been doing, and to back candidates that are worthwhile and can make some substantial change to the regular working classes, middle class, restore the middle class, get jobs back in here, give people vacation time, clean up the water, clean up the air, reduce the amount of money that we're sending overseas for war, reduce our footprint as far as military bases, and put that money into building our infrastructure, building a strong economy that's based on everyone's boat floating a little bit. I know that's painful for you, as you sit back and count all your millions, but there comes a point in time where if you want to maintain some level of what the country is and what the country is built on in the positive, you have to give something substantial to people. And it starts with a good candidate. So if it's not Bernie, Mark, I think it's Mark Moore that's in Arizona, the astronaut, a former astronaut. That guy seems like he's at least a level player in a lot of ways. I'm probably imagining somewhat corporate Democrat side, but hey, I think he has enough intellect to know that sometimes you got to do a little something extra that you otherwise would not do.